In this video, I'm going to explain what I do for my pickup service, my residential food scraps collection service. The good parts about it, the parts about it that maybe aren't so good, and give you some advice as to what might be helpful to you. This is what the truck looks like before I go out on a route. Just to let you know, I've got an 8-foot bed on this truck, and I can pretty comfortably get in 70 buckets in one route. First, of course, filling up the first layer until it's really nice and tight, and then you can stack one more on top of that to get your 70. And inside the truck, I've got see lids and more back there if need be. Well, some food and coffee and things like that. Speakers so I can listen to podcasts and music. And I've got this route sheet. Sometimes I use a tablet where I've got the name, address, directions to the next stop, and where to leave the truck if there's any confusion as far as where it's safe. Also, I've got rolls of compostable liners and some wet wipes in case the off lid or bucket still has dirt in it. So it's a mess, but it gets the job done. There are a lot of good things about doing a pickup service. People in the community like it, even though frankly most people will not pay for it, but they'll appreciate that it's being done. Some people will really be enthusiastic about joining it, and it's a good way to educate the general public about the needs for, the advantages of, and the how-tos of composting at things like events and festivals that you might have in your community. A residential pickup service, food scraps pickup service, it might be a good business money-wise, but that depends. It depends on a number of things. In a later video, I'll show you a spreadsheet that can help you make the decision as to whether or not to do it or to continue it. Okay, here we are pulling up to a house that participates in our service. Let me grab this lid and a bucket from the back. I'll be right back. When you have a residential pickup service, the food scraps that you get are really very clean, right? It only takes a little bit of communication with your participants to prevent almost all plastic, foil, certainly glass, and foam. It isn't zero. Every now and then you'll find something in the bucket that you don't like, that you don't want, maybe you're a little irritated about, but generally it's a great way to get nice, clean scraps. Another good thing about this kind of business is that if you're growing, if you're getting more participants in your service, more customers, you can grow at a pace that is manageable. For my small facility, occasionally I've had a few very large deliveries of food scraps or food residuals from an industrial food products manufacturer, which is exciting because it's a lot of material and it also is pretty clean or totally clean. There's no plastic in it, but it's so much, it's almost disruptive to the process. Whereas if you're adding households with a residential service, you can do so at the pace that is beneficial to you and not too much. The tasks during the the collection route are pretty straightforward. Drive safe. When you stop, get out of the way as much as possible. Put your hazards on. We're coming up on someone now. Take this out of here. All right, here's one of our participants. Yeah, they've got their bucket out. So put it in park, hazards on. Grab the lid from the back. There we go. Out of here, get a bucket. Put the lid on so it won't blow away in the wind. Make sure their lid is snapped on so it doesn't fly off while you're driving. And find a place in the back of the truck. Voila. Okay. Some of the not so great things about a residential food scrap collection service are that when you interact with the public, again, this could be at festivals or other events around town or however you do, even though most people seem to be intrigued by the idea, like the idea, support the idea, and a few people are enthusiastic and will sign up, you will have to deal with some people who think it's scammy. Their view is that generally that it's not reasonable of us to ask for payment when the participant is doing something extra that they don't have to do, separating their food scraps, and we're getting a material that we will use to make a product. So they think we should do it for free. I've even had a few people say that I should pay them for the food scraps, which is completely uneconomical, but there you have it. It's not too many people who think that, but it can be a little irritating because sometimes people are pretty, I don't know, pretty negative about it, but that's life. If you want to start a business, you're going to deal with some nonsense. One of the negative aspects of this kind of business is that since you have a lot of customers, that each one doesn't pay a whole lot, you might find that you spend a fair amount of time contacting them for payment. Most people just forget, but chasing down payments will take up some of your time, and that's, of course, no fun. Another negative aspect of the business, in my experience, is that you're gonna have a lot of stolen buckets over time, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but it adds up. It adds up. And I'll have a brief video on the kind of bucket that I buy, and with the bucket, the lid, and the sticker that I put on, and the shipping. That ends up being $12 per bucket. So as you can imagine, it doesn't take too many stolen buckets for it to be kind of a pain in the neck, kind of irritating, and to cut into that small margin that you have. A few quick pieces of advice. Be better than I am about social media. I think you should post at least once a week. It's a good idea so that you can keep your customers engaged and keep their enthusiasm up. Another thing, of course, you want to be cheap, but don't be too cheap like I've been. it really has been a hard thing for cash flow to try and provide this service at a very low cost. But the most important thing, this is a time-consuming aspect of your business, to run around town picking up buckets, emptying them, washing them. Instead of saying, I'm going to do this big area, you should really start with a small area. Make sure you have a lot of participants in that area to make it more economical. And if you're going to add an area, before you add that area, make sure you have a lot of people committed in that area. Now you might say, well, what's a lot? I am going to have a video where I go over some of the economics and the numbers, but think that way. Think small, dense as far as participants, and expanding slowly but surely.